First Spin.
Welcome to First Spin, a show where I learn how to use the Parallax propeller without having any prior programming experience. Rather than do this on my own, I have enlisted the help of two experts.
Yeah, I guess, Emic, I can help you.
Had a little frog in my throat.
I'm probably one of the world's foremost experts on you. But there's one guy who probably knows a lot more about you than I do.
Your creator.
Yes, we're going to give Roy Eltham a break this week and let his cough heal up.
Yep.
Instead, we've got the creator of Emic 2, a text-to-speech module that can be used with most any microcontroller, Joe Grand.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
So, for those who don't know anything about Emic or Emic 2 or anything like that, could you give us a little introduction, a little history maybe?
Sure. So the original version of Emic was a text-to-speech module that I had designed back in, I think, around 2003. And this was at a time, way before the Arduino explosion, and the do-it-yourself community was smaller and more fragmented. And it was just a little bit of a different time. And I noticed that of the modules that were out there, there weren't any good ways for your projects and robots to speak for actual real speech synthesis. There were, some chips available, like the Radio Shack General Instruments SPO 256 phoneme-based types of projects out there. So you could do it. It was just very sloppy and not really that great sounding. So I wanted to come up with a module that would be easy to use, that somebody could just send a string of text to and have it converted into actual speech. So this was one of the first modules that I had designed when I started my company, Grand Idea Studio. And I started selling it on my own. I'd actually had some advertisements in Nuts and Bolts and Circuit Seller. And right after the advertisements came out, I was contacted by John Williams, who used to work at Parallax, who's now at EFX Tech. And he was like, hey, we'd love to sell this thing at Parallax. And I said, sure, great. So Parallax ended up selling this first version of the Emic text-to-speech module. That was the beginning of a long relationship that I have with Parallax. And that was also the last time that I manufactured my own product. And I said, okay, I'm going to stick to designing products, and I'm going to have someone else sell them.
Sure.
So that was the original version that used a WinBond WTS701 text-to-speech IC. And the rest of the module essentially abstracted all of the ugliness of dealing with that chip, which was relatively complex. We were selling that module until around 2009, when WinBond discontinued that part. And by then, the whole do-it-yourself community was a lot bigger. The maker community was a lot bigger. So lots of people were making modules and other types of electronics and robotics gadgets and stuff. But there just was no good replacement for Emic. There was still no good way to have text-to-speech, to have your robots and your projects speak. So I said, okay, I'm going to come up with a new and revised version. So the Emic 2 is completely revamped, much better sounding, much more customizable and configurable, based around an Epson text-to-speech chip. Again, the module abstracts all of the ugliness and completely ridiculous complexity of using that part, and makes it just a very easy command-based module. And it's something that I'm really excited about. This is one project that I just can't wait to see what people are actually going to do with this thing.
Cool. And actually, as of today, I believe the Emic 2 is available.
Yeah, so officially it's available today. So it literally is brand new. It's been probably, I think, maybe just about a year in development.
Okay.
Not full time, but a pretty decent amount. And we had some beta testers. And the Toymakers were a beta tester.
Woohoo!
And Roy Eltham was a beta tester, and Maker Dino, and we had a few other people testing this thing out for us. And it's ready to go. It's in the Parallax store, and it's ready, and it's really exciting. I'm totally stoked.
Awesome. And it says here, the text-to-speech module is a unconstrained multi-language voice synthesizer that converts a stream of digital text into natural-sounding speech output. And
Sounds good, huh? I should be in
Yeah,
marketing.
I know. And some of the features, let's see, we have English and Spanish, right?
Yep.
And don't we have, isn't there like 2 forms of Spanish?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's two dialects.
Okay, so there's Castilian Spanish and what's the other one? Spanish?
It's Latin Spanish and Castilian Spanish.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, which have, I think it's the difference with the S and ete and like, the just tiny little inflection differences and stuff. And it's cool because the previous version of Emic had an option to speak Mandarin, but it wasn't built into the device, so you had to reprogram the flash and everything. It was kind of complicated, and most people didn't use that.
Sure.
Actually, I would say nobody used that except for one guy at Parallax. But the fact that the Emic 2 module can do Spanish on the fly, you can switch back and forth and have it be bilingual, and it's just easier to have multi-language capabilities. That it's just cool.
Right. And then we have 9 predefined voice styles, which are include males, females, and I believe children.
Yeah.
Right.
So I should mention that the Emic 2 is based on the DeckTalk text-to-speech engine, which is an industry standard kind of speech synthesis. Like if you've heard, Stephen Hawking speak, that's a speech synthesis technology that's been around for a long time. So the voices, these 9 predefined voices, are 9 of the DeckTalk voices that should be very familiar to anybody that's experimented with DeckTalk in the past. So they even have their own names, like Huge Harry and God, I can't even remember the other ones. Kit or something. I don't know. I have to look it up. There's so many different names.
Perfect Paul.
Yeah, Perfect Paul. So there's different voices, which is kind of fun. And they have their own. They have their own sounds. It's fun, kind of cool.
And some of them are better for some tasks than others, I've noticed. I was working with doing a female voice speaking Spanish for a project, and some of the voices worked very well for that, more so than other ones.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the voices were some of the voices may have even been created specifically for a particular language. And then I'm just kind of opening it up for you to be able to use whatever you want, because it just makes it easy. Makes it just more customizable for the user.
Right. That way you don't have to be limited by, this voice works on these languages and this voice doesn't work on that language.
So we've been talking about it here, but we can pretty much let it speak for itself if we fire off the demo here.
Oh, okay. Let me get that. Oh, demo
time.
Hello. My name is the Emic 2 text-to-speech module. I would like to sing you a song.
Aw.
Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer do. I am half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I can't afford a carriage. But you'd look sweet upon the seat of a bicycle built for 2.
Oh yeah, it can sing too. I forgot to mention that. By the way,
I'm
this
glad
thing can
you
also
forgot
sing
to
songs.
mention that, because honestly, I'm very music oriented with all of my projects, so I very much appreciate the fact that this thing can actually sing. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, yeah, a talking robot's pretty cool. A singing robot is that's a completely another level.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a fun one when I found out it could sing. That was awesome. And I think the first thing I had it sing was Happy Birthday, and then you guys had said, "Well, I think Happy Birthday is copyright. You should maybe sing Daisy Bell."
Yeah.
And it's a much more fitting song anyway, so that's why I put it in the demo. In the manual, there's actually, I have a bunch of other strings of text that you can copy in to sing, like the Star Spangled Banner, and there's all sorts of like different things for what else do I have? Oh yeah, I have Happy Birthday in there, Daisy Bell, Star Spangled Banner, and then I have some robotic monotone.
Yep.
So all your bass is in there.
Yep.
But it's cool. I mean, to be able to, especially for music types of people like you, Whisker, it's to be able to do that is very easy too, right? I think you were messing around with that, and you just have to have it sing. You need to be in the phoneme type of parser, but you can set the pitch and duration of each phoneme, and that's how you can get it to sing.
Yeah, you don't have to do much to actually get it to make musical tones with its phonemes. The way that the project that I'm working on right now is a little bit more complicated than that. I actually have it singing along with a SID chip that's also being generated on the fly. So, I'm creating a procedural singing chiptune music box for this week's Toymakers video. And I'm sure that's a little bit more advanced than what most people use this for, but I definitely wanted to show off what it can do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, to have somebody like you be able to kind of pull out, little tricks of the module is awesome, because to be able to show those really cool things, it just makes it that much more interesting.
Yep. And let me just go through some of the other features too, because I know some of the others are. I know folks are probably wanting to know what else it's got. So we've got control of speech and voice characteristics, including pitch, including pitch, speaking rate, and
Evidently,
word emphasis.
Addie doesn't have the same feature set as Emic.
Yeah, your parsing engine's a little bit off.
I was reading speech and looking at the word pitch, so I said peach.
You got to type the wrong
pitch,
phoneme into your command line there.
Pitch, speaking rate, and word emphasis, which is pretty cool. Actually, when I was messing around with it, you can add a lot of emphasis with just periods and exclamation marks. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's two different parsing engines built into the device. One of them is the base Epson parser, which actually lets you change things on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're typing in text, you can use things like two hash marks before a word, and it will whisper it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could use 2 underscore lines; it will emphasize it. So you can do stuff on the fly too, even though there are settings for you to set speaking rate and stuff with commands. But doing it on the fly is kind of interesting too.
Right. And then you also have even the ability to listen with a 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter audio jack. Correct.
Yep. So there's 2 different ways for you to get audio out of the device. One of them is through a bridge tide load SP plus and SP minus differential connection that's used to connect directly to an 8-ohm speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have this thing plugged in, say on a robot, and you have a speaker mounted on there, you don't need any sort of coupling caps or anything in between. You just have SP plus, SP minus from the Emic module directly to the speaker. Or you could plug in a pair of headphones or amplified speakers, or connect it directly to your computer, or do whatever you want through the 1/8 inch audio jack. And that was actually a late addition to the project. That was something that Ken Gracie at Parallax was like, hey, you know what? We should actually put an audio jack on there, which seems sort of obvious,
Mm-hmm.
but at the time, it didn't really seem obvious to put on.
Mm-hmm.
But it's awesome, because now you can just throw in whatever headphones, or I've been doing a lot of testing with one of those VHO 360 speakers that Parallax has.
Yep.
And it's awesome. You just plug in. You don't need to run extra wires and stuff into like an 8-ohm speaker. If you don't.
And for quality stuff, obviously you want the direct connection out of the headphones. When Joe sent it over, I gave him some feedback on exactly how to get the audio sounding nice and crystal clear if you wanted to, say, plug it into something to record it. So it's all set up to do that out of the headphone out. You can use it as sort of a line output,
Mm-hmm.
and run that right into a computer or a sound card of some sort, and it works really well. That's how you guys are hearing it live here on the show.
Right.
Straight in. Yeah, thanks for the help with that, by the way.
Yeah, and also Mike Burr did a lot to help make that happen.
True.
And
it's good to have audio people as beta testers for
an audio device. Yeah.
And there was someone else too. One of your other friends. I'm not sure if he's allowed to be named, but he hopped on the channel one night when I was trying to quantify some of the output levels and stuff, and he hopped on to help us make sense of all of that, which was actually really cool, because I'm not much of an analog audio guy, so it was a great learning process for me.
Yeah, Mr. Molnar over at Line 6, he designs professional audio equipment for a living, and he hopped in one night and helped us with a couple of things. Now, you mentioned the speaker earlier, and that specific amplifier chip that you used for that, is insanely loud.
Yes.
Like the amount of
amplification.
it's not a high wattage, but because of the way that it works, you hook it up to a little tiny speaker and you can get a ton of volume out of that thing.
Yeah, it's the LM4864 from National Semiconductor. And I should mention too that this project is partially open source. So the schematic, bill of materials, the hardware side of things is open source. The firmware is not, because I'm using some Epson firmware for their speech chip that needs to be stored on my chip, and then the code is just to the point where there's no benefit, I feel, to be open source, but it would just be more of a legal nightmare to get there. But the hardware is, so you can see that it uses the LM4864. And yeah, the reason it's so loud is part of the reason is that it has the bridge tied load output. So you don't have, it's not a single-ended output. You don't have a ground. You have a positive and negative that are inverted.
Yeah, it's
going to
push-pull.
either side of the speaker, push-pull, and it can get really loud.
So now you guys have mentioned the SP minus, SP plus. Why don't we go through the pins that this chip has?
Yeah, I was going to get to that here in a second.
Has?
Okay, so basically this thing has what, 6 pins?
6 pins.
Yep.
So you got your power, which is 5 volts, your ground line. You got serial in and out, and that's just basic old school serial. Use on a propeller, spin-wise, which is what this show is. You basically just use full duplex serial to talk to it. Really, really simple.
Yeah.
And then you've got your speaker your speaker plus and minus, like we were just talking about, and that's it. I mean,
and that's it. And those are optional, right? So if you have something plugged into the headphone jack, you don't need to plug into anything in SP plus, SP minus. So then all you have are 4 connections. You have your ground, 5 volts, serial in, serial out, and those are TTL level, 9600 bits per second. So pretty much any microcontroller down to some really slow devices can communicate with this thing.
That's fantastic.
And then it's just a very basic, command. Say this, set volume to this. It's very, very, very easy.
Right.
So for
Designed
today's
with Addie
example,
Thanks.
we've got it on a quick start board with a little bit of a header stuck in there, and the header is acting as an adapter just to map the power and serial in and out pins up to the Emic, and that's it. Really simple.
Should we mention the size, since this is an audio show?
Oh yeah, this is like tiny. It's All right, wait. I have the exact. Okay, ready? 1.25 inches by 1.5 inches by 0.37 inches. So in other words, it's like, I don't know. It's maybe smaller than the GPS module.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's smaller than the GPS module. Definitely flatter. I think the height is actually mostly contributed by the headphone jack.
Yes,
and
that's right.
But the rest, I mean, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it looks very nice.
The finished one turned out really nice. It's nice and light too. If you're attaching it to a robot, it shouldn't pose any problem there. So I don't know. Could we hook this thing to some sort of a radio controlled glider and glide it over people's heads, and then
have it say "wee"? I'm flying.
That could be really fun.
Well, we could try it.
Yeah. So, I'll just hit the reset button on the quick start here, and I've got a program loaded into the EEPROM.
Hey.
Yeah, there it goes.
Hey. Yeah, let's bring on our next special guest.
Joining us today is Emic 2.
Hi, Emic 2.
Oh.
So I wrote this.
Am I here?
Yes, you are here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Emic.
Is this thing on?
Oh, good. How are you two today?
Oh, we're fine, Emic. I created a little program that allows Addie's MacBook to send lines of text to you over a serial connection.
This is crazy.
If Addie could learn to type, anyway. So it's just like, I don't know.
So I am not controlling what I am saying?
It's weird. It's like we're talking to the thing that's now alive.
Oh,
wow.
Crap.
Amazing.
Who are you?
I am your creator, Emic. My name is Joe Grant. I created you from the bowels of my mind.
Why did you bring me into existence?
I needed to bring some light into this dark world. And
Do I have a girlfriend?
you don't yet, but maybe you will. Maybe you will soon.
I hear
I am
Bobot.
here.
I I hear the prop-based Bobot is single. Oh gosh, this is a very silly show, but yeah, I mean that's just a handful of lines of code to make that work, and yeah, even got it working with a Mac, which is fun with Propeller, getting that to happen. But it wasn't any more complicated. Just a very
And I am being controlled with just a serial terminal.
yep. So you changed
Lovely.
you changed the voice there in line then.
Yep.
Mhm.
And it was just a simple like colon. You make a happy face, a smiley face, and there's one of 9 voices that you can choose. And then it just says whatever is after that. So I can.
Didn't you do one when we were messing around that you said you had it say voice, and change to each of the voices?
Yep, I'm actually gonna type that in right now, so you two
Cool.
talk amongst yourselves.
Okay, that was a good one.
And if you happen to be stouch feminist, this is, you might recognize this a little bit. It's sort of part of.
I gotta be careful not to.
not
so
to type
I'm-
anything wrong.
Well, because I'm working with the BST, and the BST is not as forgiving if you like mess up in the middle.
You
It'll
can't
just
hit backspace
yeah.
because it actually sends the backspace down the serial line.
Right, which would give you a question
Oh,
mark.
crap! I messed up. Oh well.
Oh,
My Emic has a voice.
Voice. Voice.
Voice.
Voice.
Voice minus voice.
So
And you
that's
can
the,
And that's where she messed up.
okay, Emic. You need to be quiet so we can record the show now, buddy.
Okay. Call me later.
See you later. All right, that's just weird.
So that's what you can do with just like serial commands from a computer, but obviously you can have your program doing the same thing, feeding it lines of text based on what's happening to the sensor states of the robot or whatever you have it hooked to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's where you might have used like a pinging noise or an LED display or something like that before. Now you can actually have it read out its sensor stuff.
Yeah, you can, and it has a buffer of about of a K or 1,023 characters. So you can actually send it huge chunks of text and maybe even have it read books or read emails or long stuff. I was actually using the Gettysburg Address as a test for when I was doing my development because that was long enough to fill the whole buffer.
The whole thing?
No, it actually got about, at least the text I have, it got about 2/3 of the way through.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Before it filled the buffer. So I know 2/3 of the Gettysburg Address really well.
That's pretty impressive.
It's cool. I actually think that the first speech synthesizer that I ever heard was the software automated mouth on the Atari 400 computer back in, I don't know, probably 1984 or something like that. And I think that was either the Gettysburg Address or the Declaration of Independence. That's its test routine.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I found the Gettysburg Address. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll use that too.
Sure. Very cool. So, let me see here. So again, just in case, I know you guys already mentioned it, but the voltage, it's 3.6 volts to 5.5 volts.
Yeah, it should be 5 volts. Really is the ideal
Okay.
input. It will work with that range. So if you have a lower voltage system, it will work. Luckily, the Propeller Quick Start board has a 5-volt line on it.
Well, it has a VIN line, which is just the 5-volt off the USB.
Okay.
And I don't know how, you can't really rely on it because it's not running through, I don't think, the regulator on the board there.
USB 5 volts is generally pretty good. But for other boards, you can run it lower. It's just still, I've noticed that a lot of embedded sort of modules are still at 5 volts. So I thought it would just be good to keep it at that.
Yeah, it seems to work fine off of the USB line coming in. I haven't had any problems with power with it yet. When it talks, it doesn't dip it to the point where it browns out the board or anything like that. So consider that tested. It does work with the quick start wired up that way.
Yeah, and also the serial inline is 3.3 volts to 5 volt tolerant. So you can, you don't need any sort of level shifting between a propeller, which core voltage is 3.3. You can take that right into the Emic. So that's sort of a nice convenient thing.
And of course, this thing is obviously going to work just as easily with something like an Arduino or a pickaxe or whatever. Anything that could talk serial is going to be able to talk to this thing.
Yeah, we have Arduino code, basic stamp code, and propeller code up on my site and on the Parallax site. And as if we encounter more modules, we'd write more sample code. But the code is so easy that once you look at sample code from any processor, you can write your own. It's really easy.
Yeah, it's all just about string manipulation and doing serial. So, if you can do those things, then you already know how to use this thing, basically.
And if I can use it, anybody can.
Yeah. You're a great beta tester.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Addie's able to do it live on the air with a few errors, but...
I know.
Well, that's just typing error.
I'm trying to type in the demo right now, but I've already done a few mistakes, so...
That should yield some interesting results.
Okay, let's see.
Well, you could just hit D0 to do the speaking demo, the English speaking demo, or D2 to do the Spanish speaking demo.
But I tried that with the BST and it doesn't work.
User error.
Yeah. Probably.
So those demos are built right onto the microcontroller that's on the Emic board then.
Yeah, so I decided to build in, just as an easy way to test the device and to demonstrate it, I built in 3 demo messages, sort of like a printer, you hit certain keys and it will print out a test page. So one of them is just an English introduction that speeds up and slows down on the fly and then changes voices. And then there's the Spanish introduction that's the same exact wording, just in Spanish. And then the singing will sing Daisy Bell. So that's when at the that intro for the podcast, that first string of text said, I would like to sing you, or did you even play that one? Yeah, I would like to sing you a song or whatever. And then the next part, it just called that demonstration message.
Okay, you ready? You ready for me to try this?
Hello everyone. My name is Emic 2. I am the next generation text-to-speech module created by Grand Idea Studio. I can numbers and whisper.
Whoops.
I can change to one of 9 voices. For example, from Paul to Harry to Denise
to Wendy.
I can also increasing my pitch
Whoops.
and increase my pitch again. Then speak faster and even faster again. And then go back to normal.
Yeah, so whispering is 2 hash signs, so it sounded like you just did 1.
Yeah, that was an accident, but I didn't want to delete it because I had already done all that work.
Yeah.
So
and there are WAV files of all the stuff up on the product page at Parallax, which of course we'll link in the description. And that's all the time we have this week.
Already?
Actually, yeah.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Cool.
Really fast one. Obviously, when you're having fun, it just flies by. So, thank you, Joe,
Just
for joining.
flies by. Wait.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anybody who's listening out there, definitely post pictures and videos and everything, and somehow send them over to Toymakers or send them over to me, so we can put them up on the site and promote them, and just share your stuff so we can see what everyone's working on.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting seeing all the projects that other people are coming up with once they get it in their hands. I've had it for a few months now, and I've been having fun with it. I'm going to put up my project video with 4 of my super epic hacks that I made with it over the last few months, and that'll be going up this week, and should be pretty fun.
Yep.
I can't wait to see that one.
All right, guys. So,
well, thank you, Joe, for coming to chat with us and for letting me mess around with Emic.
Yeah, thank you.
Fun.
All right, we'll see you guys next week for another edition of First Spin at firstspin.tv.
See ya later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.